All right, guys, what's going on? I'll let you guys start coming in, checking in. As you guys tap into the live stream, let me know where you're coming from. Like always, make sure you like as soon as you say what's up. Like the video. Also, the Discord link is pinned in the comment section here. Join our Johnny Says Boxing Insider VIP group. It's a couple bucks a month. It's linked. You become part of our Discord. That's where you're going to get insider betting information. You get to brush shoulders with professional bettors. You get to share your parlays, ask questions. You get my locks of the week, my parlays, my picks. We got 4 separate channels in that Discord that you could bet on. Boxing, MMA, NFL, and college football. We have fights today. We have the Dana White Contender Series starting in a few hours. This is week 4. We hit a clean sweep week 2 and week 3, so we've won our last 10. I've already given you in the Discord my picks for today, the 5 fights. I think it's about an 11-1. 100 on it is returning me a little over $1,100, maybe $1,200. I have to look. We also have, I'm going to talk, there's a lot to talk about, guys. As you're checking in, I'll say what's up in a second. I want to get through my intro real quick. Jaime Munguia released a statement today. He is cleared. He released a statement along with his handlers. If you guys want to read that, I posted that on my Instagram. It's, it clears the air. Take whatever credence or relevance you want. I mean, the proper organizations were sitting with him. His people, he said he was innocent all along. I got to be honest with you, following Jaime's career since he was younger, I was shocked. I was kind of bummed out when he popped dirty after the second Bruno fight. Just because you watch the kid grow, you watch him, keep leveling up. You watch him redeem himself against Sriracha. And, you kind of watch guys on Instagram. You watch how they train. You watch how they operate. Jaime was always one of these guys, to me, was chin down, hard-nosed, hard worker, always wanted to level up. And I was kind of bummed out when he popped dirty. So him being cleared, it kind of, for me, actually, it kind of made sense. He wasn't one of these guys that I thought was out there, trying to cheat. But boxing, even that statement I just said is controversial. So if you want to read it, if you're interested in that, you could either go to my Instagram, I shared it on the story, or go to Jaime Munguia's Instagram. He's clear. I think he's going to be announcing some fight news pretty soon. We got a lot of fights this weekend. I gave you guys my prediction breakdown of Iglesias versus Vladimir Shishkin. That's on, so these fights are happening. Remember, guys, I'm streaming from Australia. So wherever you are in the world, you're probably going to be a day behind me. Australia is one of the first countries to experience New Year's. So we're a day ahead. So when I tell you we have fights on Friday, so Iglesias fights Shishkin on 1 p.m. my Friday. We have fights on Saturday. That's Mick Conlan versus Bateson. We could get into Mick Conlan. We have fights on Sunday. That's going to be Sandy Ryan's fighting, Mark Dickinson versus Williamson, McCormick versus Para. A good fight nobody's talking about, Pedro Guevara versus Adrian Curiel. That's a good fight, mate. Oscar Valdez is fighting, and then Sugar Nunez versus Christopher Diaz-Veyes. So we can talk about a bunch of stuff, guys. I'm going to start saying what's up to the boys. Like I said, click the link that's pinned in the comment section. Join our Discord. It's a couple bucks a month. You get everything in there. PJ in the house. What's up, buddy? I appreciate your support. Usyk. I think Fabio is going to get a beatdown of a lifetime. PJ says, what's my UFC picks? We're not going all favorites. Nah, there's... PJ, with the odds, if you look at Dana White Contender Series today, I think that there's 4 out of the 5 UFC fights today are 50-50 fights. The odds don't show it. But when I did film study, when I did my due diligence, I reached out to a couple of my buddies. One's an MMA journalist in DC. Another one runs a regional promotion in the South. They agree with me. On paper, I took one dog, but I think a lot of these fights should be 50-50. Adu says, morning, boys. Johnny just messaged you. Nunez Diaz over-under has been updated to 6.5, not 5.5. Did you get a bet on it before the change? I did. I took Sugar Nunez over 5.5. I can't believe they updated it. Does it change my opinion? Does it change my opinion? Let's check it out real quick, just to double check. That's insane. My bet is still in, but my book now isn't giving me it. Interesting. Look, when I broke down Veyes in his style, he got stopped once. I think when he got stopped, it was a late stoppage in the 12th. It was a few years ago against Navarrete. You mix that with Veyes is really tough, guys, too. Nunes is going to be aggressive. He's on his front foot. He's a volume guy. He has a lot of stoppages, 90% knockout to win ratio. But his knockouts aren't like Deontay Wilder, one punch. But, I have been, hearing people attempting to compare him to kind of Zepeda. But he's not like that either. They both have a lot of volume. They're both on the front foot. They both have a cardio for days. But he punches harder than Zepeda. You know what I'm saying? So you can find one-punch knockouts in his highlight reel. But when I say that was against low-level competition, when I say he's not a one-punch guy, I mean a dude who could be down on the cards in the 11th and end it with one shot. He doesn't have that type of power. Veyes is a real pro. I would still take the over 6.5 to answer your question. I think I would still take over 6.5. I think Veyes, I think he's tough. What are your odds if you're getting over 6.5? Let's break down all the fights. DJ Green, what's up, buddy? Boxing fan, good day, everyone. Hit that button, chat. Let's put our work in. Heaven sent. That Iglesias card is underrated. See 3 possible future champions on it. Johnny Orobio trains with Better Biev. Coach recall. Let's talk about it, Heaven sent, real quick then. He wants to talk about it. You're saying you see 3? You see 3 future world champions? Okay, so the guys, that card's going down in Montreal. Iglesias versus Shishkin is the main. I got Iglesias in that fight. I think people are sleeping on Shishkin. I think they're sleeping on his resume. I think they're sleeping on his toughness. I think people are sleeping on Shishkin's ability to box. I think all in all, you would be ill-advised to go into this fight thinking that Shishkin's just going to get stopped, get walked all over. So on the money line, I'm very comfortable with locking up one of my locks, Shishkin on the money line, not a lot of value. Method of victory parlay, which I'm sharing. I'm going to give you boys on YouTube. So on YouTube for free, I'm going to give you my long parlay, my boxing long parlay for free. I'm going to give you my method of victory boxing parlay for free as well. Now, in the Discord, you've gotten my UFC picks. I'm giving you my UFC method of victory picks for Dana White. You're getting my lock of the week for boxing and my... There's a lock that I'm going to give you. I still love the Sugar Nunes over... Even if you can't get over 5.5, I still see Velez lasting at least to the 7th round. I do, man. So, but let's talk about this Montreal card. You said you see 3 former world champions. Orobio's 14-0. Don Jenny, we just covered Don Jenny on. He's having a quick turnaround, isn't he? Because we just covered Don Jenny. He just fought. Don Jenny's 33-7 now, 19 knockouts. He just got stopped against Batchov. He beat Bravo. He lost to UD to Chavez. Okay, time flies, guys. We covered Don Jenny versus Raymond Morataya. That was over a year ago. But look how active he's been. This is already going to be his 3rd fight. This is Don Jenny's 3rd fight in 2025. He's an active guy. He's coming off a 9th round stoppage, though. Only, is this right? He just got stopped last month. His corner just threw the towel in. That doesn't seem right. All right, guys. I got another lock for you. Go to your box rec. Somebody double check this with me. John Orobio, who's 14-0 with 12 knockouts. He's on this undercard with Iglesias. Oh, yeah. Did his opponent change? Because it says he's fighting Yvonne Monroy now. This is interesting. Who are you guys getting Arobio fighting? All right, that updated. That was weird. On my box rec initially, it said Arobio was fighting Don Jenny. But no, now it's saying Arobio's fighting Monroy. Monroy's 10-8. We're probably not even going to be able to bet on this fight, are we? Monroy just got stopped this year. Yeah. We'll see. Who else is on this card? Who's the third world champion you see? Asana? Well, Fendero, Asenao. Yeah, there's some good fighters on this card. PJ Nunes takes his time. Yeah, Nunes pours it on late. Christian Morales, my guy. What's up, buddy? Heaven sent Mark Ramsey. Got John Arobio, Mobili, and better beef fighters got power. GMS put on the effects, so the distance is play. I think so. GMS put on the elect. I got that fight. It's great odds too. I think Shishkin is the guy to test Iglesias. I think Iglesias, it's no shock, no secret that he's going to be most dangerous early. This is where I feel, guys, you don't always have to, your fighter doesn't always have to win the fight for you to win the fight. So even though I'm taking, this is kind of fun. Even though, I have Osley as a lock this week on the money line, I'm taking Osley to win a decision against Shishkin. So in a way, I'm watching this fight cheering for Shishkin to go the distance. And then I think I got it at plus 450. Is Iglesias by decision a good idea? That's what, guys, it's up to you guys. I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I'm just telling you why I like it. I shared it with you 3 days ago when the odds first hit the streets. I got it at really good numbers. I just think Shishkin is a better pro than a lot of people think. Where I was getting at, though, is Shishkin needs to mind his P's and Q's early. The first quarter of the fight. It's a 12-rounder, the first 4 rounds. In my film study, I'm pretty much convinced Shishkin will be able to operate and navigate those first 4 rounds. His jab's decent enough. His speed is decent enough. His feet is decent enough. I see his game. Everything is decent enough. I had him rewatch the William Skull fight. It could have easily been Shishkin fighting Canelo this past May. The scorecards were really close. I actually had Shishkin up by 1 or 2 rounds. Never been stopped. Obviously, he only has that one loss to UD, which was real close. After those first 4 rounds, a big puncher like Iglesias, we've seen this happen time and time again. A fighter will then, I think once Shishkin settles into the fight, he's not going to get stopped. That's what I see. Iglesias, Arobio, Moreno, Fendero. Interesting. History Vault, no notification. Interesting. Yeah, none of you boys got notified. Wild. I put the, guys, I create my live streams in advance all the time. It's weird how you guys aren't getting notified. As you're tapping in, we're about 15 minutes into this. We're floating between 20 and 30. Like the video. Get the thumbs up. Heaven sent. Would you guys say that Shishkin got his chin tested? I mean, at this stage of the game, yeah, I think so. I mean, Uzcategui, have you guys ever seen Uzcategui fight? Uzcategui has 29 knockouts. Uzcategui went 34-5, 29 knockouts. That was a really close fight. When I was talking to Chilltown on our live stream last week, he was telling you boys to go watch that fight. It happened a few years ago. Shishkin was 13-0. Uzcategui lost a unanimous decision. And, he came into the fight, I think, with an 85% knockout to win ratio. In Uzcategui's only losses, he lost a decision to Thompson, a decision to Caleb Plant. So when you say he's fought a big puncher, I mean, Uzcategui, like I said. Of his 39 pro fights and his 34 wins, 29 are by knockout. So Matt, so we got also, guys, I wanted to talk a little bit about Mick Conlon, but we'll get to History Vault. Now, History Vault says, I've had a hard time seeing this fight go in the distance as both likes to bang. I do agree with you, Johnny. Shishkin is much better than people think. Yeah, so dare I say, now this is straight from, I think the odds are disrespectful. Let's see if they've changed. Because a couple days ago, the odds, Shishkin was a 5-1 dog against Iglesias. And when you look, honestly, all of the, and this is why we do what we do, because we want to pick each other's brains. We want to reach out to people who we feel do their due diligence with film study. That's why you boys are here. That's why you guys have stuck around on my channel, because I ask you guys the same thing. The boys in the Discord, there's wizards in the Discord as well. So all of the second guessing on Shishkin that is being asked, has he faced a big puncher? Uskadigi's could crack, right? Is he durable, Shishkin? He's never been stopped. He's only lost once. You could ask the same things with Iglesias. Yeah, Shishkin's a 6-1 dog right now. You could ask the same questions about Iglesias. Has he ever been tested? Has he ever faced a big puncher? 13-0, 12 knockouts. He's coming off, a stoppage win of Ivanov, who was 18-0. Agbeko was 28-3, stopped him. Shevchenko, 16-1. Not a lot of huge names coming off the mat. You know what I mean? Isaac Chilemba, he decisioned him in 12. So people were like, does Iglesias fade? Could Iglesias go all 12 and win a decision? We've seen him do that before. Do you know what I'm saying? So he's done that before against Chilemba. So I think it's a good matchup. I think it's good matchmaking. You know what I'm saying? Shishkin, like I said, could have easily fought Canelo instead of Skull. And not a lot of people were putting their hands up to fight Iglesias at 68. Iglesias is the younger guy. He's the bigger guy. I give him the power advantage. He has what I don't think that Shishkin's going to do that a lot of Iglesias' opponents do is in the pocket, when you're facing a puncher, you have to either be all the way in or all the way out, or be confident enough to punch with a puncher. Watch Iglesias' film study. I talked about this in my breakdown. Is a lot of his opponents, when they feel Iglesias' power, they will stay in the pocket and they'll let Iglesias punch and they won't punch. And you see them cower away here with the guard, and then they put their head down here, and then Iglesias is punching down like that. And so a narrative that's been circulating is that he's a dirty puncher, he's a rabid puncher. I disagree with that. What I see in his film study is what I just said. It's his opponent's job to either defend themselves, protect themselves, or strategically or, from an educated perspective defensively, to not be in that position to get hit. They're the ones, who are going here. One of his most recent knockouts, that's exactly what happened. Rather than shelling up in the pocket with him, and if you're not going to throw, because it is dangerous when you're punching with a puncher, don't hook with a hooker. His hook is, his right hook from Orthodox is very, very nice. So if you're not going to hook with him, if you feel you're going to get hurt, don't stand there with him. Don't let him punch and get off. At least clinch, at least work the body, at least try to work your angles, or exit and make him come to you. The thing about Shishkin is he is going to come forward. So it's an interesting matchup. It's going to be a firefight. Look, this could be a first-round knockout. This could end via first round. It's boxing, and it's at 168 pounds. These boys, this is one of those divisions where, remember, like, Bruno Sarase had 4 knockouts against Jaime Munguia in Tijuana, and, and he was a 160 fighting at 68. I'm pretty sure he was coming up, and he knocked out Munguia. This is one of those divisions. If you catch a guy clean, if you catch a guy slipping, if you catch a guy not on his P's and Q's, you can knock him out. So, once again, a knockout early is in play based off of if you really like Iglesias' power and if you think that Shishkin's going to be too brave. That's a bet to think about. 1 through 4, Iglesias by knockout. I wonder what that's paying. When I'm wagering the two, when I'm siding and using my reasoning on what I like, if I start my betting tree like that, and the tip of the pyramid is the most confident, it's Iglesias on the money line. Not a lot of value, right? Now, as I do my deductive reasoning based off of logic and what I've seen, as I go down on my tree and I get lower and lower, the second one I like, based on the odds and what I see, is Iglesias by decision. But right below Iglesias by decision, you got to throw, I could see Iglesias by knockout 1-4 as well. So it's something to think about. So I'm not, what I'm doing is, I'm the one thing I always do is I'm always as transparent as possible with you guys. And I try my best not to sell you on any of my picks. So if I'm trying to sell you on my picks, I would say 100%, there's no doubt in my mind, Iglesias beats him by decision. That's the smart money. That's where you should put your rent, your mortgage, your house. I never say that. And I think you guys understand that. Boxing fan, my guy, $2 super chat. Super chats make my morning, make my day. It's why I wait. Dude, I wake up for you boys. Let's go. John, boxing fan says, any upset alert on the board Thursday through Saturday? Great question. Let's talk about it. Who's on upset alert? And boxing fan, when we use the word upset, we're speaking specifically on the odds. I do have an upset in the UFC today, though. But let's get to boxing because you said Thursday through Sunday. All right, odds. Okay, the one upset I could see going down. Give me 1 second to pull it up. Pull out your books real quick. It's Pedro Guevara versus Adrian Curiel. Now, Guevara is the fighter who's trending. He's 43-5 with 1 draw. He has 22 knockouts. He's 36 years old. He's coming off a decision win, but it was only last year Pedro got stopped against Jesse. Bam stopped him in the 3rd. Guevara's a really good fighter. When he was cooking, he has some really, really good wins. This is going to be a goddamn firefight. He's the favorite against Curiel, by the way. This is why I wanted to talk about this fight. Curiel's only 26 years old. Guevara's 36 years old. Curiel, 26-6, doesn't have it's going to be a boxer versus puncher sort of thing. He wins a lot of decisions. He got stopped against Nansinga in the 10th. And he lost a technical decision to Sonny Edwards last year. He's only been stopped. He got stopped once. So this is an interesting thing to think about. You got Guevara, who has a high knockout to win ratio, who's 36 years old, who's the big favorite on my book, versus Curiel, who's 10 years younger, who doesn't have one-punch knockout power. He has losses, but he loses decisions. He's only been stopped once. And on my book, if you're asking me who could be on upset alert, you give me Adrian Curiel $2.40, meaning $100 on Curiel on the money line, gets your money back plus $140. I like that. So not the biggest of upsets because on paper, Guevara, I think the money's on him due to his knockout opportunity and his knockout to win ratio. But, 36 years old versus 26 years old, the 10 years age gap in that division, I like Curiel on upset alert here to beat Guevara. McCormick versus Parra, no distance. Julius, what's up, my guy? Boxing fan, what's up? Curiel for the upset. Julius, we're seeing eye to eye. Heaven sent Benjamin Johnson, a prospect with 4 knockouts all in the first round. They build him up. Though his opponent is 7-6 and has been stopped in the first. History vault. Curiel fought at 108 4 fights ago. Okay. Yeah, so, 4 fights ago would have been 1, 2, 3, 4. That was only a year ago. And this fight is at, I think it's at 115. 5-3, 5-4. Yeah, so that's the one fight. If you guys want to pick a dog, I could see Curiel beating Guevara. I could see him winning more rounds. I could see him outworking him. And is that a lock? No, by no means. But to answer boxing fan, that's where I would go if you're looking for an upset. Julius, the biggest upset of the week is Nunes versus Diaz, distance at 600. Nunes couldn't stop opponent in Japanese title fight. Well, Julius, Sugar Nunes was also fighting a really tough Rikishi. Rikishi's a good fighter, world ranked. Not many people are stopping Rikishi, and those Japanese fighters. And one of my locks, I gave you guys one of my prop bets, Julius, yesterday, and that prop, I put it in the Discord, is Sugar Nunes versus Diaz to go over 5.5. So I like that. I like that bet a lot. History Vault, this fight is at 115. Yeah, so coming up from 108 to 115, two weight classes, not a big jump. It's not like 40 to 47, but it's worth mentioning. I think that it's tough. Whenever you're dealing with a big puncher knockout guy in those lighter divisions who's 36 years old. Now, guys, once again, we're gonna have exceptions to the rule. We just saw Nonito Donaire. We saw what he did to Campos in Argentina. We do see exceptions to the rule. But, I had to answer the question. I'm not saying I'm going to play that fight. But if you had, you sit me down, and you're like, Johnny, pick the upset this week in boxing. When I look at what's going down, when we're saying upsets, we're not talking about odds and, like Julius referenced, finding plus money for prop bets. That's in my world, that's not an upset. That's just finding plus money on prop bets. That's being a good, smart prop better. You know what I'm saying? An upset would be taking the underdog on the money line. That's the way I'm answering this question. So taking the upset on the money line this weekend in boxing of all the matchups. I mean, you could talk about Bateson versus Conlon. That's another one because Bateson's an underdog. And so what you're going to have to do is this, guys, because and I'm not saying Julius is wrong. We all have our own methodology and our own systems of how we operate. When I hear upsets, I'm talking traditionally on the money line, pick an underdog who could upset those money line odds. Now, I talked about Curiel being the dog against Guevara. Bateson is a dog against Conlon. The odds are pretty similar in both of those fights. Bateson's a 285, Curiel is a 245. If you ask me, when I look at Bateson's resume and his film study, and usually I would pick, if you're doing deductive reasoning, which favorite loses, Conlon or Guevara? Usually I would dissect the favorite's resume and I would dissect the favorite and how they operate and then give you my pick. And if I were doing that, I would definitely say that Conlon would lose before Guevara. But in this case, when I'm doing my reasoning, what favorite is going to lose, I have to talk about their opponent. Curiel taking on Guevara as the dog versus Bateson taking on Conlon. Look what Curiel's done in his career. Look what Bateson's done in his career. Look who they're both fighting. Bateson's a guy with, I think, 20 wins, 1 loss. I think maybe 7 or 8 of his wins are against winning opponents. When you watch his film study, when you watch how he punches, when you watch who he's fought, when you watch the domestic level sort of opponents, club level even. We have a term, clubbers. Clubbers are guys that, like, you're facing a lot of guys on debut. Maybe you have a young prospect who's on debut. You're going to put him up against some clubbers. And then you'll see, you build them up from there. And then you eventually work your way to the domestic level. Because at the club level, domestic level is the top of the food chain. But when you're growing through your progress, once you get to the domestic level then becomes the bottom of the food chain. And the world level is the top of the food chain. And then even once you get to the world level, then you have a whole new food chain. Then you have, at the world level, you have world level prospects, world level contenders, world level championship level. You know what I'm saying? So this is when people say there's levels to this. This is what we're talking about. So with Bateson, I mean, he's fought a lot of clubbers, club level guys. And in my opinion, not a lot. I mean, he's a fringe domestic resume. Mick Conlan is a legit former world champion. If Mick Conlan can't beat Bateson, at 33 years old, Mick Conlan, you know, some people might think he's 50. He's only 33. He's been 3 losses, 3 stoppages, 3 bad stoppages. And what a brutal sport we're into, dude, because that Lee Wood fight was going his way until it wasn't. And then when I remember watching that fight and how shocked I was to see Conlan get beat that way. Conlan wasn't supposed to lose that fight. Conlan had, and when you guys have to remember this as well. When Conlan fought Lee Wood, I think this is an important thing to bring up. And this is my point. When Conlan fought Lee Wood, he was undefeated. It was in 2022. It seems like it was longer ago. So it was 3 years ago. It was in Nottingham, England. He drops Wood in the first round. Conlan gets dropped in the 11th and then knocked out of the ring in the 12th. It was a war. But Conlan had, you know, he's the one who came, you know, the Irish guy, goes into Lee Wood's home. I think he was the favorite in that. Drops Lee Wood early, going for the knockout the entire time. He was coming off that win over TJ Doheny, who was a legit, you know, world champion. And then he gets stopped against Luis Alberto Lopez. And then the Jordan Gill stoppage is the one that makes you scratch your head. The Jordan Gill stoppage. Jordan Gill is a club level guy. No offense to Gill, who, you know, was outspoken about his out of the ring issues. He was going through some mental problems. I don't know if it was addiction or heartbreak, family loss. It's tough out there, boys. And Gill was one of these guys who upset the odds and had one of these like Cinderella stories to knock out a former world champion in Conlan in the 7th. And, you know, Gill hurt him early, and then Conlan never was able to recover. But when you look at Bateson, what he's done, man, who's he? 20-1, 6 knockouts. He drew against Quartermain. He drew against Quartermain. He fights a guy who's 16-4. Then he fights 8-18, 14-20, 10-0, 23-4, 3-30. His resume is far from shiny. So yeah, I still feel that of the upsets, who could win, I think Curio over Guevara would be my go. Diaz is also an old vet. He's been a pro for a long time. Matchmakers banking on Diaz, folding by knockout by Nunes's pressure. Yeah, that's what it looks like. I like the over in that history vault. 5.5. Over 5.5. I think Diaz is a good enough pro to go over 5.5. Julia says Bateson is going to retire Conlan. I would be shocked if Bateson beats Conlan. Sugar Shane Mosley is trying to get a fight with Miguel Cotto. Well, here we go. Ricardo Veyes in the house. Ricardo, you're wild, mate. We missed you the last few weeks with your takes. History vault. It's a risky fight to bet on, but Bateson just isn't good at all. If Conlan has anything, yeah, I agree. Boxing fan. Clubber was also Johnny. Listening to that, yeah, for sure. Hitting them clubs in the late 90s. Conlan is a club level guy right now. Yeah, I disagree. I think he's a little bit better than a club level guy. I think Conlan is still. If you ask Conlan, this dude's still a world champion, and sometimes guys, that's what makes all the difference. Here, you ask Conlan, he's still a world champion. He's still fighting to be a world champion. You know what I'm saying? So that sometimes that's what makes all the difference, especially when you're looking at these matchups versus we see a lot of these in the UK. Reese Bellotti versus Ryan Gardner. Okay, a lot of you boys picked Reese Bellotti. I didn't see it. I picked Ryan. We hit big on Ryan Gardner. I think Ryan Gardner stopped Bellotti, and a lot of that had to do with the belief that Gardner believes he's a guy, he's that dude, and you could see in the buildup. Funny enough, Bellotti turns that loss around, and he's now fighting next month in a pretty big feature fight against the kid, Josh Padley, against the kid who got stopped against Shakur. So there's always these matchups in the UK that are intriguing to me. So call them, these are domestic guys. Now, we just saw one in Scotland, a great fight, Nathaniel Collins versus Lee McGregor. Another one of these fights where the odds, a lot of you boys, when I say you boys, I know who picked who. I hold receipts. A lot of you boys picked Lee McGregor, and I took Nathaniel Collins. We got Nathaniel Collins by stoppage. We got Nathaniel Collins under, I think, 6.5. I know we hit on the stoppage. We hit him on the money line. And that was another one where, like, Lee McGregor, I think, had beat Nathaniel in the amateurs. It was one of those things doing film study, and my logical reason, I ended up siding with the fact of this is the guy who believes he's a world champion. When you're looking at career trajectories and outcomes potential in fights, sometimes the only thing that separates two guys is that thought process. So it's something you got to look at when you're trying to put your money on a fighter, is maybe something you've seen in the past, maybe pattern recognition on what they say. Or, for instance, the Serhiy Bohacek-Brandon Adams fight coming up. You know, Bohacek is the big favorite. Bohacek won the first fight, not stopped him. But I was telling the boys in the Discord and the boys on the chat this week is that before I put my money on Bohacek, I need to see what he looks like during fight week. I need to see how he sounds. I need to see how he carries himself. I need to see the weight cut. I need to see his media shakedown. I need to see how he's looking on the pads. I need to see his feet. I need to see all of that before I'm taking him as the favorite, because I think that Bohacek is on upset alert. Watching Brandon Adams, all that nonverbal communication stuff I just spoke about, going to his Instagram, seeing what he's looking like. The dude looks like he's been in the best shape of his career. Brandon Adams, now or never, great record, nice little following as well. I think that, like, it's one of these things, once again, pattern recognition with Bohacek, his fight style. He's in his early 30s. He's had some rough weight cuts. He takes a lot of damage. We just saw him not look that great against Michael Fox. Then again, it's hard to look good against Michael Fox with that style. So, pattern recognition, sometimes, like I said, in matchups, when you're looking to bet on fighters, it sometimes comes down to, at least when you're picking on them, picking who to win, what they sound like, what you're hearing them say, not always the resume. Josh Padley going to beat his ass. Yeah, I think Padley wins that fight. Heaven sent, Johnny, do you also study to do background checks on judges? The judges of Canelo versus Skull had it pretty close for Skull, at least the first two judges. This may be a conversation. No, I'm going to be honest with you, Heaven sent. I've never looked into judges. That's a hole in my game. Maybe it's something to start doing. It's now that one of my boys is a boxing writer in America, in Northeast Ohio. So the only judge work I do is when he sends me a message by Johnny, Adelaide Bird is judging. So then I'm like, oh shit, or what? Tim Cheatham is judging. Oh shit. So that's about it. But I'm not doing my own sort of like proactive study to see who the judges are. Now we're getting a bit in the weeds. But you bring up a good point. History Vault, Johnny, thoughts on McKenna versus Moran? McKenna is the obvious pick, but can we trust? Are you talking about Tyron McKenna? Seems to be risks to bet on him. Because the only McKenna in my world is Aaron McKenna when we're talking about fighters to bet on. I think you're talking about Tyron McKenna. I don't see Aaron McKenna with a fight coming up. Tyron's fighting Dylan Moran in Belfast. Should be a good dust up. Tyron's already 35, southpaw. Nice little southpaw, 24-6. Not a lot of crack. Dylan Moran, when's that fight going down? That's next week. Damn, we got a lot of fights next week, boys. We got a lot of fight next week. I might not. Guys, I think I'm going to make all my money with the Bud Crawford card. So if I sprinkle something on a Tyron McKenna fight, man, I don't know, man. You know what I learned a lot this past week is sometimes our best wins are when we take weeks off. You know, I didn't cover Albert Bell. I didn't tell you guys to bet on Albert Bell. Some of you boys bet on this really obscure fight in France. I didn't bet on the boxing. You know, I won money on Dana White last week, the Contender Series, and then I watched college football. Won money on Ohio State. Dude, the Buckeyes were a slight underdog at home, national titles against punk ass Texas. Come on. So when you're talking to me about Tyron McKenna in 2 weeks, the same week we got all of those fights. Naoya anyways fighting that weekend, Bud Canelo. I'm probably not going to bet on a Tyron McKenna fight. Hopefully that answered your question. Breaking Bad in the house. Heaven said, oh my God, totally forgot about Mabili versus Better Beef train with each other. If Martinez versus Mabili ain't the co-main turkey, it's a miss up. That's a fun fight. Vanessa Vallejo. What's up? Heaven sent. Wish to see Hot Rod fight again. So we got Vanessa and Victor. OSU smashed it. We won money there. Ryan Hong. What's up, Ryan? Which UFC fight? So, Ryan, are you talking about today or are you talking about on the weekend which UFC fight? Are we talking about Dana White Contender Series or are we talking about the fights coming up this weekend? Because I do have an upset for today. Oh, what's up? Perfect. We got the brother and sister house. Appreciate the family. This is a family-oriented show. So we welcome brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, and the boys. So if you guys go to the Discord, Ryan, I'll tell you what I wrote in the Discord for my picks. Okay, so yeah, I got Tommy McMillan at $2.35. So if you guys want to upset today, just for the sake of my Johnny Says VIPs, they're paid supporters of the channel. They're the ones with the stars on the chat. It's a couple bucks a month. You support the channel here. You get access to our private betting group on our Discord. I'm not going to give you all of my Dana White picks today, but I'll give you the one upset. But I feel 4 of these 5 fights should be 50-50 fights. The odds don't say that. So I like Tommy McMillan. He's at a $2.35 against Magoyan. Magoyan is a Russian-style sort of wrestler, grappler. Tommy McMillan, they're fighting at 145. Magoyan, I think, is 21. McMillan's 27. I like McMillan. They call him Tommy Gun. I like his size at that division. He's 5'11", 145. He's a tall striker. A lot of the boys are picking him. The funny thing is, go to the odds on your book. You're going to see McMillan as the underdog. But if you go to Tapology, you're going to see McMillan, 80% of the people are saying he's going to win. Now, Tapology is filled with a lot of casuals. This is why, because McMillan, Tommy Gun, is brought up by Sean O'Malley. And we know it's one of these rare fights when you look at this Tapology percentage of who's going to win versus the odds makers, they're flip-flopped. So you can't always believe one or the other. I gave you logic on my Discord on why I feel McMillan is going to beat McGowan. I like his size. I like his height. I like his reach. I like the style. And I like his experience at 27 versus the 21-year-old kid. So not experienced, doesn't have a lot of high-level experience, hasn't really even fought at the LFA level, which is sort of like a UFC feeder system. You know, you become an LFA champion, you're going to get a shot. The UFC, he's not even at that level. But, you know, that's the dog I have. It's one of the dogs I have. I'm also putting up today, as soon as this ends, my method of victory parlay for the UFC for today. I kind of experimented with an over-under parlay, meaning that on all 5 fights today, I also gave you a ticket on the over-under rounds, over 1.5, under 1.5, etc. These are all 3-rounders. And so based on stylistic matchups, you're looking at like there's a couple grappler versus strikers, there's a couple striker versus strikers. And if you're looking at statistics in the UFC, striker versus striker could either go the distance or end super early based on what type of strikers they are. and I have a couple under 1.5s. I think we're going to see some early stoppages today in the Contender Series. This is week 4. We know that things are, started heating up from week 2 to week 3, and we're looking on to continue on our winning ways. So hopefully I answered your question. Hand History Vault says, Johnny, did you watch tape on Davis versus Agarco? I would really like to know your thoughts on this fight. It's one of the most interesting fights next week. Kyron, right? I haven't done tape steady yet. And guys, just because I have so much, just because there's so much fights going on, I have to stay. I stay week to week. But let me give you my initial reaction on this fight. Reminder: you don't have to bet the McMillan fight. Better lockier fights tonight than that. Better lockier fights than that. Yeah, so when I do the Garco tape, I'll let you know. I'm just trying to pull it up. Give me 1 second, guys. Which Johnny is... So, J.O., which Johnny is posted in Discord, he said worth the sub free. Johnny, who you got? UFC this weekend, Ryan Hong, 717. So, Ryan, are you talking about the Dana White Contender Series? Or are you talking about this weekend? Yeah, So, guys, I have to... let me get to this real quick. Ryan says, would take the over 6.5 in the Nunes fight, or is that line too high? The Imam Kyle. Okay, so I like Sugar Nunes. I like the over at 6.5. I got him yesterday at 5.5, by the way. And then I was told, I think History Vault or Julius reminded us that the books changed. If you would have taken the pick last night, I gave it to you on my Instagram. I gave it to you on my YouTube here. I said Sugar Nunes over 5.5 at plus money, go heavy. Rumor is they moved it to 6.5. It's the second week in a row they've done this. If you remember a couple weeks back when I shared with you the inside info on Sky Nicholson by knockout, I got her at 245, and then that line dropped to 165. So jump on that early. The Imamov card versus Kaio. Right now, I like Bahayo to beat Imamov. I don't have the whole card sitting in front of me. Is there a specific fight, Ryan? Let me know. Victor Vallejo, Johnny the box is behind, brother. Yeah, those box... the boxes, Nike. Yeah, those are just... That's kind of like a table I put hats and stuff on. History Vault, Bovada has it. Oh, yeah, so it's wild that they changed that to... They must have saw what I saw. I still think Valles... I still think he should be able to operate for 6.5. You know, like I said, now if you're looking at statistics, Navarrete, he's not the young... Sugar's not the youngest guy. You know what I mean? It's not like Sugar Nunes is 26 years old. His output, he's a fun champion. I'm glad he's a champ there at 30. Vea's been stopped against Navarrete. That was late. I think Vea should be able to deal with the pressure. I think he's going to. He's dealt with awkward styles in the past. Vanessa, I'm getting double teamed here. But guys, I'm going to do another live stream today. I got a couple clients coming up. I have a client here at my house in about 20 minutes. I got to get ready for him. I got clients at 8 a.m., 9 a.m. We got Dana White Contender Series starting at 10. And then I have one more client today at 2. There really isn't a lot of 50-50 boxing fights I want to break down this week. You know, we've been covering them a lot on the channel. Is there any fight that you want me to break down, guys? Like, do you see anything on your betting app or like what? Because there's 2 cards in England. There's the card in Mexico. There's a card in Canada. Is there a matchup you want me to break down, like on my channel, Stats Don't Lie, like to where I do the analysis breakdowns that you haven't seen yet before, or that you haven't had your questions answered? Now Nunes is the champ, might hit harder. Might hit harder. Now Nunes is the champ. I mean, what are you saying here, Adu? You're saying because he's the champ, he's going to hit harder? So Young Money, what you got on Dana White tonight? Young Money, go to the Discord, big fella. I gave you my ticket. Young Money, join our Discord. It's pinned in the comment section here. A couple bucks a month. Professional gambling Discord. You get pro bettors in there. I give you all of my picks all week. Right now, the upset of the week, I like the 27-year-old out of New Mexico to beat the Russian. More mongrel. I see what you're saying, Adu. If anything, when you I definitely support the theory of when you become a champion, you quote unquote walk differently. But when you say more power is something generated. It's not something that just shows up based off being a champ. More mongrel. I mean, his styles. How much more mongrel could you get? You know what I mean? If anything, Adu, what he would want to do, he already has a crazy knockout to win ratio, over 90%. So with that in mind, it's not like his style is going to change. How do you get more mongrel out of that style? It's already insane. It's already pressure forward, volume, in your face sort of thing. It's going to come down to, will Veyes be able to deal with the pressure? Rikishi handled it, and Rikishi caught, dude, Sugar's there to get hit. The guy to beat Sugar Nunes is going to be a guy who has exceptional timing. I don't know if he's there at 130. The guy to beat Sugar Nunes is a guy with exceptional timing who's going to have a reach advantage, which Rikishi did. Rikishi was taller. He was catching Nunes coming in. This is a hot take. And I'm not trying to glaze old dude here. But when you look at Rafa Espinosa's style, because he's taller, because he punches down, because he's sharper, because he could crack, somebody like that is a style, in my opinion, that beats Nunes. Not another volume guy. A volume guy isn't going to beat Sugar Nunes. So when you say more mongrel, it's not like he's all of a sudden going to turn into this guy who sits on his shots and changes his tempo. He's still going to be that guy. Just in case, break down Suleiman Segua. That's a good fight. Suleiman Segua is a good fight. Bookies may add the fight later this week. I'm not seeing it. I think Gary messaged me about this fight. Suleiman said, I'm not seeing any odds. And guys, it's tough for me to break down fights if I don't have odds, because then in my Stats Don't Lie videos, I break down the odds as a segment in the video. So if I don't have odds to use, I don't do the breakdown. So if that does open up History Vault, we could get into it. We could definitely get into it. Okay. Let me go over the UFC. Let me answer. We have a couple minutes left. I'm going to cover this weekend's UFC real quick because there are some good fights. Okay, this weekend, upset alerts. Brad Tavares, that's a good fight versus Bitchik. Patterson, Trey Waters is always a fun guy to watch fight. William Gomez, I thought he got cut. He's still in the UFC. Fakhretdinov versus Andreas Gustafsson versus Fakhretdinov. Staying away from that fight. Marcin Tybura, staying away. Every time I bet on Marcin Tybura, I either win or lose. That's a guy I don't bet on. Reese McKee, though. Reese McKee, Skeletor. My guy. Reese McKee's fighting. He's a fun guy. If you don't know who Reese McKee is, he's a all blood and guts glory guy sort of guy. You know, he came up through Cage Warriors, made it to the UFC, gets cut, went back to Cage Warriors, made it back to the UFC. One of these sort of guys. Real long striker, bloodbath sort of type fighter. He's fighting a guy named Axel Sola. That's a fun fight. Umar C's fighting. He's a fun. There's a lot of good matchups. Pitbull's fighting. Faraz Zahim's back on. He's fighting. Bukauskas versus Paul Craig. That's a good fight. Paul, every time you give me Paul Craig a plus money, mate, Paul Craig's the guy, the Scottish fighter, big dude. He's the guy who wants to pull guard all the time and then get you, pull guard, get you on the ground and then submit you. Mason Jones, fun fighter. Good to see Mason Jones back in the UFC. Nice. I didn't know they re-signed Mason Jones. Mason Jones at one time, man, I think he cut his teeth in Cage Warriors. He might have been a Cage Warriors champ at 20, 21 years old. He was young. And then, I think he might be from Wales. And then he got, made it to the UFC, gets cut, and now he's back. I didn't know he got re-signed. That's fun. Here's the fight. Benoit Saint-Denis versus Rufi. Benoit Saint-Denis versus Rufi. Ooh, that's a good fight. That's a good fight. I like Bahayo to beat Imamov. So right now, all I'm taking is Bahayo. And if, 100, you put 1,000 on Bahayo to beat Imamov, 1,000 gets you your money back plus 7,500 plus $750. That's a nice pick. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. We're about an hour. Like this video. I'm going live again today, probably somewhere around the Dana White Contender Series time. If I get odds on the Sigaloff fight, I'll break it down for you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like this video. Join our Discord. Links pinned in the comment section below. We got a lot of stuff going on. It's going to be busy from here on out, probably till the New Year's, guys. Real busy because we got massive boxing matches, massive MMA fights. We're covering NCAA and NFL now in the Discord. So I did a 20-leg parlay last week and went 19 out of 20. 19 out of 20 on my first college football parlay. The NFL opens this weekend. We got action in our Discord, and I gave you guys Ohio State versus Texas, so we hit big on that. Let's keep the winning streak going today. I've hit my last 10 on the Contender Series. It's going to be a tougher week today because these fights are 50-50. Good luck to all the bettors. Thank you for all the supporters. I appreciate